Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Fire Nation Rising, the Avatar-themed entry in the Rising series. And disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this one. I'm a huge fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but I was a bit mixed on Thanos Rising, which is the last one I played of this series. How does the Avatar entry do? Let's find out and get to the list. So my number 5 point, which is a mix for my taste, is focus on the balance ruin mechanic. As the Firelord activates, he'll be flipping over cards, and some of them will tell you to move the little ruin token up. And if it reaches the top here, then it triggers the Day of Black Sun. And if Ozai gets there first, it's going to immediately defeat any allies that have this little eclipse symbol here. And that can cascade into losing a bunch of allies and suddenly losing the game, so you want to avoid that. And you do that by raising up balance. And I find this pretty interesting because it gives you something else to do with tokens and icons on your turn. Sometimes you have to defeat enemies and such. And they have a variety of these, and some of them have different difficulty levels with little seals in the bottom. So it's good for play variety, for turn-to-turn variety with your choices. And if you get to the top first instead of Ozai, you're going to immediately defeat any enemies that have that same symbol, so it kind of clears out your board a little bit. But the negative side of this, it brings it down to a mix, and is like a lot of things in the game, is that it's very swingy, because I've had games where none of these allies and villains were up. There aren't that many of them in the deck. They're definitely in the minority, and then there's not really much point for you to try to race up here. You can just kind of ignore it and do a lot more on the board and just let Ozai advance with no consequences. So yes, sometimes it's going to be really impactful, sometimes not. I wish it was more consistently impactful because I do like the choices of raising this stuff up. My number 4 point is also a mix for my taste, related to what I just talked about, and that's the movement of Ozai each round. So like all the other games in the Rising series, you're going to be rotating them, and they're going to be dealing damage to all the good characters in the located area, also activating any villains there. And it's a mix because on the positive side, there's some good tension here, and you have both cheer out loud and groan moments when he rotates the exact right or wrong way to defeat your favorite characters or hurt your entire team. But on the negative side, like a lot of things in this game series, it's incredibly swingy. Sometimes he'll just keep on happening to turn to the exact place you are, and that's going to kill your whole team. And sometimes he just is inconsequential for multiple rounds. Although to be fair, as you go deeper into the deck, since unlike some other Rising games, it is a consistent deck with consistent numbers of turns and staying in places, you can somewhat predict in the latter half of the game where he's going to go and where he isn't. So that ameliorates some of the randomness. And that feeds into my number 3 point for the game, which is a full-on con for my taste, and that is the swinginess and snowballing and balance in the game. This is one of those games where, in my experience, the tension is not consistent. A lot of games you're going to get a ton of people and have a crack team, even at higher difficulties, and just steamroll the game and win easily. But if you struggle to get almost anybody early on, and you're stuck with your same number of dice, not having that many special abilities to use, it can be really frustrating, and you can just die pretty quickly without accomplishing much. And there's also, like a lot of cooperative games, player count balance issues. The more players you have, the less you're going to get to grow your team, the less frequently you're going to get to leverage their abilities. They do try to fix that a little bit by giving you an extra character when you play in higher player count games, but it doesn't really fix the entire problem. So yeah, just know that you're going to come in with a lot of randomness, and it's not always going to be very tense and exciting at the end of the game. But my number 2 is a full pro for my taste, one of the strengths of the system, and especially this game in the series specifically, because I love Avatar. And that's building up your team and just seeing all your favorite characters, getting cool abilities that can combo together, feeling overpowered as you get them all going. Now, a few caveats to that though. Once your team gets really big, like 8 or 9, I found it a bit unwieldy to remember all my abilities and use them consistently. There's not an easy way to track which ones you've used unless you I don't know, tap them or something. And also, while this is still a pro for me, it's rare in my experience for the team building to be consistent across all the players. So usually I'll have a few of people that are just totally stacked with characters, and then some other players that only have 2 or 3 people and don't have as exciting of turns. So your results may vary a little bit. But for my number 1, I'm getting to the most important thing about the game, which is the dice rolling and dice placement. And I'll call this a bit of a mix, leaning pro for my taste. On the negative side, sometimes the dice just don't come out the way you want. Sometimes you just can't roll the result you want. Sometimes you almost finish getting a character, but just can't get that final symbol, so it can be really frustrating. But on the positive side, since you know which dice you get and what they're most likely to roll, it's pretty easy to play the probabilities. It is fun to do this whole like Elder Sign / Yahtzee-ish thing of, placing one or more and then re-rolling the rest and getting excited when you hit just the thing you need. And then also there's some nice cooperation in the Ping Yao tokens that you can use on anybody's turn to like give them icons they were missing or give them re-rolls or heal them or that kind of stuff. So yeah, this is almost a full pro for me. Again, it just can be frustrating when the dice don't go your way of playing into that random element of the game again. But mostly this is a lot of good fun, the core dice mechanic of the game. So overall, you might want to check out Fire Nation Rising if you've been a fan of the Rising series games so far. They didn't change a lot here, so if you liked it before, you'll like it still. Also, if you enjoy pretty straightforward dice mitigation and placement games, there's some fun stuff going on here if you like building up exciting teams and some cooperation between players. On the other hand, you might want to avoid this one if you don't like dice luck, if you don't like kind of imbalance between players and some getting more powerful or less powerful. The difficulty isn't always consistent, so there's definitely some flaws and quirks to the gameplay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.